Welcome to today's video on sentence editing. These sentences were taken from essays written about students' thought on education styles, American education versus education in their home country, things like that. Now, when we talk about sentence editing, okay, editing sentences is not about right or wrong. It's about improving sentences, making sentences better, making sentences easier to read, improving communication. There is no right answer. There's no one correct answer. There are many ways to improve sentences. These are my solutions, the way that I would choose to edit the sentences. Other editors may make different choices. Let's start with our first sentence. They are very clear in their opinions and speak up a lot. This is what I see. First, who is they? In this case, it's American students. Now, try to avoid a lot of pronouns. Use more nouns, fewer pronouns. Also, instead of using the be verb are and an adjective clear, why not use an action verb like express opinions? And then the adjective becomes an adverb, clearly. Again, use action verbs like state their opinions, express their opinions. So, American students express their opinions clearly and speak up a lot. The next thing I'm going to look at is parallel structure. The first half uses clearly an ly adverb, so I want to use an ly adverb in the second half. A lot is okay, but it's a bit informal. So how can we turn that into an ly adverb? Well, a lot, often, frequently. American students express their opinions clearly and speak up frequently. And this is probably what I would do with this sentence. Next, only TUJ offers that option in Japan in the current situation. All right, let's make it better. First, simplify structures. Don't use a phrase if one word is enough. For example, in the current situation, you can write as a simple adverb, currently. Only TUJ offers that option in Japan currently. Now, we need to reorganize. When and where. Put that first because only TUJ offers that option. The main clause is most important. So put the when and where, the background information, first. Currently in Japan, only TUJ offers that option. Notice that I use a comma after Japan. I think it's a good idea to always put a comma after anything in front of the main clause, as a general rule. And this is what I would do with sentence number 2. Number 3. Secondly, assignments are what I'm struggling with the most. Now, there's really nothing wrong with this sentence grammatically. The grammar is 100% correct. However, we can make it better. My advice, avoid firstly, secondly, thirdly. These are not commonly used. If you want to use something, use first, second, third. Although I personally prefer first, next, also, finally, and avoid the numbers 1, 2, 3, first, second, third. That's my advice. The most important information should be last. Assignments, That's what I'm struggling with, so that should be last. Also, what I'm struggling with the most is assignments. I've changed secondly to also. Also, try to avoid noun clause subjects, what I am. Simplify this. Struggling should be the main verb of the main clause, if possible. So, also, I'm struggling with assignments. Clear, simple, easy to understand. Students think that longer sentences are better. I disagree. I think short, simple, use as few words as possible. However, if you want to make the sentence longer, don't add more words, add more information. Now, this is a topic sentence, the first sentence of a paragraph. So short, general, and direct is good. However, first let's look at the vocabulary. Assignments, maybe we should use homework or work outside of class. These are choices. All of them are fine. Also, I'm struggling with the work outside of class. I don't know. I kind of like that. Also, description. What is it about the work that you're struggling with? How hard the assignments are? Well, most students complain about the amount of work, how much work they have to do. So I might write this sentence as also, I'm struggling with the amount of work outside of class. And this would be my final choice for this sentence, personally. Number 4, the Bridge program is a course for students who do not use English as a first language. Well, the first problem is capitalization. The Bridge program. It's the name of the program, so it needs to be capitalized. But don't capitalize the unless it's the first word of the sentence. Now, this is a definition. What is the Bridge program? So keep Bridge program first. Vocabulary. Students who do not use English, well, generally a language, the main thing you do with a language is speak. So the Bridge program is a program, not a course, a program. The Bridge program is a program for students who do not speak English as a first language. Now, vocabulary, instead of saying who do not speak English as a first language, how about non-native English speakers? Because everyone speaks English, just some are native, some are non-native. The Bridge program is a program for non-native English speakers. I kind of like this one. But let's not stop there. Let's add more detail, because this is the most important thing. Not just non-native English speakers, but what do they want to do in the future? What do students in the Bridge program want to do after the program? The Bridge program is a program for non-native English speakers who want to enroll in TUJ as undergraduate students. This last part is very important because the Bridge program is very specific, not for any non-native English speaker. Another possibility, the Bridge program is a program for non-native English speakers who want to become full-time undergraduate students at TUJ. So adding this part about become full-time students is extremely important. Moving on, number 5. When I was a high school student, I failed entering examination of Japanese university that I want to go. First, vocabulary. Not entering examination, but entrance exam, entrance examination. Also, it's not exam of, but exam for, the purpose of the exam. Finally, well, not finally, but also do not capitalize university in this case. Japanese university is not the name of a university. This is just a general noun, not a name. So when I was a high school student, I failed the entrance exam for the Japanese university, something, something, something. Next, verb tense. Everything is past. Was a high school student. This sets the sentence as past, so all the verbs need to be past. Not want, but wanted. Also, expressions. First, you would say go to the university. You could use attend if you want to be a little more formal. When I was a high school student, I failed the entrance exam for the Japanese university that I really wanted to go to. Now, I decided to keep go to because the tone is a little more informal. So attend would be okay, but we can keep this one informal. Now, is high school important? Why do we have to say high school? What about age? When in high school? What year? So how about when I was a senior in high school? I failed the entrance exam for the Japanese university that I really wanted to go to. I'm adding really wanted to make it to show my real desire. But yeah, when I was a senior in high school. That tells me a bit more about the time than just when I was a high school student, because that's 3 years. Senior in high school, specific, last year of high school. 2 years ago, when I was a senior in high school. Honestly, 2 years ago is more important than senior in high school. This is kind of extra information. 2 years ago, when I was a senior in high school, I failed the entrance exam for the Japanese university that I really wanted to go to. I like this the best, personally. All right, number 6. The U.S. education system offers flexible study options. For example, double majors and minors are possible. Here's a sentence where there are really 0 grammar errors, but there are definitely ways to improve the sentence. The first sentence, absolutely perfect. The U.S. education system offers flexible study options. You don't need to do anything with that. You could rewrite it if you want to, but as it is, very good. The second sentence is, for example, necessary. In general, students tend to use these words like for example too much. It's understood that what comes next is a specific example. So, the U.S. education system offers flexible study options. Double majors and minors are possible. It's clear that this is an example without saying, for example. Which is more impressive, a double major or a minor? Well, a double major to me. So, the U.S. education system offers flexible study options. Minors and double majors are possible. Put the most impressive, the most important information last. Now, verb choice. Avoid the be verb as a main verb. It's overused by students. So let's get rid of are possible. Can have. Have a major. Can shows possibility. Also, even a double major. By adding even shows emphasis. The U.S. education system is very flexible. You can have a minor and even a double major. Now, the question here is minor only, because that's what this sounds like. The minor, however, goes with your major. It's a major plus a minor. So you really kind of need to add this information along with your major. Also, you might want to consider 3 sentences for effect. The U.S. education system is very flexible. Along with your major, you can have a minor. You can even have a double major. 3 sentences, 2 very specific examples. This is probably my best option for now. Number 7. I had received education in Japan, and all students were Japanese before I come to Temple University, Japan. First, the background is before TUJ, before coming to Temple University. Therefore, it should be first, before I came to TUJ. This is a very common issue with non-native speakers writing, putting the background information at the end of the sentence when it should be at the beginning. Next, received an education. Really? How about studied? Studied at, studied in a school, went to a school. Make it simple. Also, education in Japan. Why do we need this prepositional phrase? Well, how about Japanese schools? Use Japanese as an adjective. Now, I know at least for Japanese students, you would always say Nihon no gakko. So Nihon is the country, and no shows that you need some sort of preposition. Okay, so Japanese doesn't really have Japan as an adjective. It doesn't have this proper adjective form like English does. But in English, most nouns, almost all nouns, can become adjectives. So before I came to TUJ, I had only gone to Japanese schools. Before I came to TUJ, I had only studied in Japanese schools. Now, all students were Japanese. 100%? Is this like 100% of all the students in all the schools that you went to? How about make it more personal, all of my classmates? You say I went to Japanese schools, so it's already personal. Before I came to TUJ, I had only studied in Japanese schools, and all of my classmates were Japanese. Also, notice, I didn't mention this before I came to TUJ. Past tense. Everything is past. Verbs must match. Number 8. Studying at TUJ, it requires you to speak Japanese fluently. That is because Japan is not an English-based language country. I know what you mean, but we can definitely make this a little smoother, a little more natural. First, we have a double subject. Studying at TUJ, it requires. Very common error. The subject is the action studying at TUJ. Avoid pronouns. Avoid things like you. Instead of you requires students, all non-Japanese students. Something like that. Now, fact check. Requires, must, requirement. Is there a Japanese language test? Do you have to prove that you can speak Japanese before you come to TUJ? No, there isn't. Also, fluent, like almost native speaker? I don't think that's necessary either. Finally, before we look at the first sentence, you got two verbs, study and speak. Why not use two clauses? One verb, one clause. Keep it simple. If you want to study at TUJ, you should also speak some Japanese. Not fluently, but some definitely helps. And should shows that it's a good idea, but not a requirement. Should instead of must. Next, avoid that is because. It's just that is because. Really useless, doesn't work. Write this as one sentence. Also, English-based language country, English-speaking country. If you want to study at TUJ, you should also speak some Japanese because Japan is not an English-speaking country. This is what I would do. Now, you might want to add some additional information to this sentence. For example, when do you need to speak Japanese? In classes? In the offices? What if you can't speak Japanese? Should you give up on TUJ? So I think you need to give more information than just, well, at TUJ you must speak Japanese. Because that's not 100% true. It makes it easier, but it's not a requirement. Because many students at TUJ do not speak Japanese when they arrive. Number 9. The main style of universities learning is passive learning, such as taking notes while professors are talking. First thing I see is this universities learning, apostrophe S. This is also a very common error with non-native speakers, especially Japanese learners, because again, Japanese uses this noun no noun. Daigaku no benkyou hoho, something like that. So it's very easy, it's very common to want to translate exactly. First, choose good subjects. Style of learning. Is that really the best subject we can come up with? Who studies? Students. When or where do they study? Classes. So try students or classes as a subject. Also, is the idea of learning, is passive learning? No, I don't think so. It's understood. Classes, students, learn. Don't overuse noun complements after the be verb. It's most common to just have the adjective. So I would start with classes in Japanese universities tend to be very passive. Now I like tend to in this case. I've added that to show that it's not always the case, but this is what is most common. Some classes are not passive. Tend to means not 100%, but is the habit, it's the stereotype. Students in Japanese universities tend to be very passive. The example has verbs. Take, talk, such as taking notes while professors are talking. Therefore, start a new sentence. Now, in this case, I think for example would be good. Also, pay attention to verb tense because you have taking notes, are talking. This statement is always true. It is a general statement, so you need to use the present tense. Also, how many professors? Several in one class? Or is it just one per class? Students in Japanese universities tend to be very passive. For example, they quietly take notes while the professor talks. I've added quietly to emphasize this passive nature. It's very quiet, only one person is talking. But I would make it even more descriptive. This is something where you want people to feel how passive it is. Learning in Japanese, learning in Asian universities tends to be very passive. In a typical class, students sit quietly and copy notes as the professor talks to himself in the front of the room. I've added talks to himself to show that it's not really interaction. It would be the same as watching a YouTube video, right? There's no interaction between the people. So anyway, this is what I would do, and this is the additional description that I would add. Number 10, in my surprising experience at TUJ so far, there is a strict rule and policy with regard to plagiarism than I had expected. All right, my surprising experience. Again, we've got adjectives and nouns. Let's use verbs. Use surprise as a verb. All of these ed, ing adjectives come from a verb form. Okay, so I would use surprise me. Now, so far means until now. So you want to use the present perfect, has surprised me, maybe instead of so far. One thing that has surprised me at TUJ is. Now, after the be verb, you want a noun clause. The rule is strict. You're using strict, so to make it a noun clause, how strict? One thing that has surprised me at TUJ is how strict the rules. I've made it plural because it's not just one rule, it's a series of rules. Rules and policies, well, they kind of mean the same thing. Pick one. I think rules is better, it shows how strong it is. Also, with regard to, it's correct, but simpler would be regarding, or even simpler, even more informal, about. The rules are strict when it becomes a noun clause, how strict the rules are. One thing that has surprised me at TUJ is how strict the rules about plagiarism are. It seems really weird to end a sentence with the be verb like this, but it is correct because it is a noun clause. Than I had expected. I left it out of the first sentence because in order to use than, you have to have something er or more, some kind of comparative structure. In this case, you would need stricter. Surprising, more than I expected. Do you need both? No, that it was more than I expected, so I was surprised. That's understood. So if I want to use than I had expected, which is really good, at TUJ, the rules about plagiarism are much stricter than I expected, than I had expected. Short and simple. Okay? There's one idea. Plagiarism rules are strict. And then I add whatever else I want. Number 11. When I talk to my friends who attend universities in Japan, most of them, except for a few, skip class frequently and have little motivation to study. Overall, the English is really good. I mean, there are almost no mistakes. But how can we make this more natural, even better. First, is talking important? The fact that I was with my friends or on the phone talking to them? No, I just want to show that my friends are my source. So I'm going to use according to name my source, to cite my source. Also use fewer prepositional phrases. Again, in universities in Japan, Japanese universities, very common issue. According to my friends who attend Japanese universities. Most except a few. Do we need both? No, because that's what most means. All except a few. Almost all, if you want to really show except a few, but don't need both. According to my friends who attend Japanese universities, most of them skip classes frequently, have little motivation. Well, here's a case where you're using a weak verb have and motivation is a noun, when motivated as an adjective is more common in native speaker English. According to my friends who attend Japanese universities, most of them skip classes frequently and are not motivated to study. Use fewer nouns, more verbs, more adjectives. Here's another one. According to my friends, most students at Japanese universities, not just my friends, but most students at Japanese universities skip classes frequently and study very little. So skip and study, two action verbs, more parallel structure. My former high school teacher made a graphic analogy that students are like the products in a factory and the teachers are workers on the assembly line, and the school is the factory where the qualified products will be shipped to each university. Excellent information, actually very well written, but as one sentence, it just gets a bit long. All in one sentence? No. Minimum 2 sentences, maybe as many as 4. Personally, I'm going to go with 3. My former high school teacher made this analogy. Graphic analogy, I don't know. It's a little too descriptive, a little too almost violent. Graphic violence. So I keep it simple. Made this analogy. Students are products in a factory and teachers are assembly line workers. Students, teachers, one sentence. Schools are the factories that ship finished products off to universities. Third sentence, schools. Notice, this is a general statement, so I use plural nouns without the. Students, products, teachers, assembly line workers. Schools are factories. Maybe I should take away that that ship finished products off to universities. General. Okay, no or the or anything like that. So again, schools are factories. I need to take away the. Number 13. I grew up taking a Japanese style of education for about 12 years, including elementary school, junior high school, and high school. Thus, it is my first experience to take an American style of education after entering TUJ, and everything is new for me. Okay, I grew up. How about I spent my whole life? I spent my childhood. I spent 12 years. Okay, because you have time, 12 years, so spend time. Also, a Japanese style of education? How about Japanese schools? Keep it simple. Elementary school, junior high school, high school. Do you need all 3? No. You're talking about time, so I would use from to or from through. I spent my entire childhood in Japanese schools, from elementary school through high school. Also, note that including means part of a group. These are examples of a larger group. However, elementary school, junior high school is the entire group. Therefore, including or such as, like, would not work in this case. Avoid thus. I see this fairly frequently. It is just don't use it. Use something else. Remove this from your active vocabulary. That's my advice. Is this a cause and effect situation? Growing up, first experience? No. Really, it's about time. When did the writer start at TUJ? When, not why. 2 months ago, I something. Entered TUJ? Entered TUJ to do what? Begin studying. So, I spent my entire childhood in Japanese schools, from elementary school through high school. Period. 2 months ago, I began studying at TUJ. Personally, in this case, I would go with three sentences. The first sentence is my past experience. The second sentence is about starting TUJ. And third is about my first experience. Now, the last part, first experience, everything is new, this is cause and effect. Now I would use so instead of and. I spent my entire childhood in Japanese schools, from elementary school through high school. 2 months ago, I began studying at TUJ. This is my first time in an American school, so everything is new for me. Notice the parallel structure that I added. I use in Japanese schools at the beginning of the statement, so I use in an American school later. You really do want to use the same patterns when you are describing the same idea. This is much easier for the human brain to understand. Four, one of the strongest advantages of getting a degree at TUJ rather than a traditional university in Japan is that students do not have to choose their major before they take an entrance exam for a university. Basically, grammatically it's correct, but again, we can make it better, change some vocabulary, cut out some words, rearrange it a little bit, and make it better. First, strongest advantages. No, you use the adjective biggest advantage. Just remember that pattern. Biggest advantage, biggest disadvantage. Next, getting a degree, yeah, all right, but to get a degree, you have to study. So simplify. For one of the biggest advantages, I really don't know why for is being used here. Possibly it's being used to connect to a previous sentence, like because. Whatever, it's unnecessary. So just get rid of it. One of the biggest advantages of studying at TUJ. University in Japan, Japanese university. We're seeing this again and again and again. Choose their major. Better than choose would be decide, because it takes a long time to think. You're not just going, eeny, meeny, miny, mo, okay, I'll have the chicken. You'd spend a lot of time thinking, so decide is much better than choose. The official, correct, vocabulary for American universities, you declare a major. This is the official announcement to the school, to your advisor, this is my major. Declare their major. Entrance exam for university. Again, avoid prepositional phrases when possible. Use adjectives. A university entrance exam. One of the biggest advantages of studying at TUJ rather than a traditional Japanese university is that students do not have to declare their major before they take the university entrance exam. Rather than is fine, 100% correct. You could use instead of. Now, I'm going to change things around a little bit here. And one reason to choose TUJ over a traditional Japanese university is that you don't have to declare your major while you're still in high school before you even take the entrance exam. Because the whole point here is, in Japan, you have to decide when you're still very young before you enter university. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it a little bit, as you see here. Change the vocabulary a little bit, and yeah. Finally, number 15. A lot of Japanese students must decide their major before going to university. Their age is around 17 years old. Okay, right here we have a run-on where we have verbs, must decide, their age is, but no connecting word. At TUJ, however, students can decide their major after spending several years at university, and they can change their major easier than that in Japan. A lot of. Isn't it all? 100%? Almost all? But end of the day, is the number important at all? Right? Could you get away with just saying Japanese students? Decide their major, declare their major, as mentioned before. Capitalization, going to university. University should not be capitalized. It's not a name. When they are, their age is around 17, you need to say when they are, connecting word. Or if you want to use age, at the age of. That would be a good expression to use. And which is more surprising, at 17 or before starting? Whichever you think is most surprising, that goes last for effect. Japanese students must declare their major when they are 17 years old, even before they begin studying in university. To me, before university, declaring a major before university, to me is really surprising. And that's why I add the word even. You could also say Japanese students must declare their major at the age of 17. Now, the next sentence, at TUJ, however, excellent beginning, okay? Putting the transition word, after another piece of information, really nice. I like it. Can decide after. How about can wait to decide? Also, notice that after several years is enough. Spending is understood. You spend time, so it is unnecessary. Japanese students must declare their major when they are 17 years old, even before they begin studying in university. At TUJ, however, students can wait to decide their major. Now, with can wait is very, very common to use until. Until when? Well, in the United States, usually students are expected to declare by their junior year, before they begin their third year of university. So, Japanese students must declare their major when they're 17 years old, even before they begin studying in university. At TUJ, however, students can wait to decide their major until their junior year. Now, the final thing is a new idea, change major. So declare your major and then change major. So I would recommend a new sentence. New idea, new sentence. Connect it with also. Also, you got change easily. You want an ly adverb, change something, something, something easily. And then you got than, so change more easily than. Japanese students must declare their major when they're 17 years old, even before they begin studying in university. At TUJ, however, students can wait to decide their major until their junior year. Also, students can change their major much more easily than in Japan. All right, we are now at about 45 minutes. I think that is more than enough time with all of this. So hopefully you got something from it and you feel a little more confident in your decision making as you move forward. That's it for today. Aloha.